I don't know how much you know about Afghanistan.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Kill James Bond. I am Alice Caldwell-Kelly. I am joined, as always, by my friends Abigail Thorne and Devon.
Hey.
How you doing?
But as you heard, we are talking about Afghanistan, and so we decided to get the one person we know who knows anything about Afghanistan. It's the other quarter of Kill James Bond and our editor, Nate. How's it going, Nate?
Hello, yeah, it's me. The thing that some people know about me, because I've definitely never talked about this publicly in any forum whatsoever, that I have been to Afghanistan. So yeah, I watched Rambo 3 and
as penance, as anti-troop action, right? Instead of like spitting on you when you got back at the airport, we made you watch Rambo 3, which is maybe worse.
Yeah, I mean, without skipping too far ahead in the plot, I think when Colonel Troutman is basically giving his sort of like retorts to the Russian colonel interrogating him, and he said, "We had our Vietnam, and now you're going to have yours." And it's sort of like, yeah. Anyway, what happened next? Let's not talk about that.
Don't worry about it.
People, the planners of Operation Enduring Freedom failed to watch Rambo 3 enough times.
Yeah, they failed to make like a serious study. This is our like staff ride through Rambo 3. So we begin in Thailand, first of all, where we get the return of an unexpected friend of the podcast.
Yes.
And the unexpected friend of the podcast is the man from Uncle Headshot Photo.
Yes. I loved this moment. So Colonel Troutman is walking around looking for Rambo over the credits by showing people a shirtless, glossy headshot of Rambo. Like,
when did you take this, man? He had a little Polaroid that he just like whipped out in Rambo 1 when he was crying about how he couldn't find his friend's legs, and he just got like, neat, that's going in the collection.
It's not like from Vietnam era. It's not like Rambo looking like a young man. This is like current.
In fairness, I mean, the grand total of his time on screen across the Rambo franchise, I feel like shirtless is a correct choice. If you like, this is just what he typically looks like.
This is what he'll most likely be doing.
Suspect is shirtless.
Yeah,
he's shirtless.
He's joined by a member from the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok, a gentleman played by Kirkwood Smith, also known to me as Clarence Boddicker from RoboCop 1.
Oh shit!
You're right.
I would never have pulled that. That's incredible.
That man's face is indelible to me. That is Clarence Boddicker saying "bitches leave." Like yes, it's Kirkwood Smith. The minute I saw him, I was just like, oh my god! It's the 80s stern balding man who was like a surprisingly shockingly hard villain in RoboCop.
So this movie poses a question, first of all, which is, what if you had the movie The Deer Hunter, but it was shit? Right? Rambo, disillusioned by war, disillusioned by the Vietnam War, has stayed in Southeast Asia. He's like stayed in Thailand, and he's like sort of experiencing emotional turmoil, which he is channeling into beating the shit out of people.
He's doing stick fighting in a warehouse.
He is, yeah.
He is.
I have seen the film Hot Shots Part 2. And I watched it many, many times as a child because it was one of the only things we had on tape. And I did not realize until I saw this that Hot Shots Part 2 is a parody of the Rambo franchise. So many of these scenes are like, wait a minute, this is just Hot Shots. It's impossible for me not to laugh at it.
It ripped off. It's like watching like one of the sort of like 70s airplane thrillers and being like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
There's did a lot of airplane bits in this. But Rambo needs to get the shit kicked out of him to show his emotional turmoil. But this might even be contractual. I don't know if this was a thing yet in contract, but you cannot show Rambo losing a fight. So
he nearly loses.
He has to almost lose a fight and then go Rambo mode and like hit a dude with the sticks a bunch. This whole sequence is like mostly grunting. There's a lot of crowd shots. If you remember when we did Casino Royale, I talked about how to shoot a crowd racistly. This is
the instructions to the extras was hold about 2,000 baht in your hands and just jump and be excited, which I just don't understand why they're all, every single person in every single shot is holding money above their heads and jumping and screaming. Like, it's just, I've seen many crowds in my life. I don't think I've ever seen a crowd that well funded that is not really doing anything besides following obvious instructions. And like you said, it's like they have 2 frames of animation, like they're in the background of Street Fighter 2.
Who here got money? Yeah, I do. I would fucking love to be in that crowd. What a vibe. That would be phenomenal.
We applied the Thai filter to the like CGI generated crowds from the pod race in episode 1.
Yeah, these like chat GPT generated dudes are just like
it's also very funny too because
wrong number of fingers on all of them.
It's also very funny too because there's a degree to which when you first start watching this fight scene, you think, okay, he's facing off against the local Thai champion, but then when they get close-ups of his opponent, you realize this guy is also probably just Italian.
Yeah,
and it's like then Rambo is so tanned also that you're sort of like, I guess being Italian is the ultimate ethnic camouflage. Like he could kind of be a jacked Afghan also. It's just like, yeah, I didn't know this
much. The big man from Uncle Sign and just getting question mark. We can't get any kind of reading up or down on it.
That's why Agent 42 can get in anywhere. He can be any race. He's just Italian. The metronome is swinging, baby.
So Rambo.
Do you want to tell you what I fucking noticed about Rambo? Is the second he turned around, I went, "Fuck, that's my hair."
Yeah,
I was like, shit. Put a mustache.
He has the Devon mullet.
He looks great. He looks jacked. He's thriving. He's moisturized. He goes Rambo mode and wins, but he declines to kill his opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is interesting. He sort of like wins the classic Thai Roman gladiatorial combat thing. Like the crowd gives him a thumbs up, and he leaves as Troutman sort of like calls after him, and he doesn't notice.
He helps his opponent up. And like, pats him on the shoulder, and it's like, yeah, okay, we're not going to kill each other.
He also collects his winnings from an Asian version of the coach from Rocky, which is very funny.
It's right. Okay, this scene starts homoerotic, because it's 2 beefy dudes just beating the shit out of each other. However, it ends really homo-romantic because it's so wistfully shot. The way Troutman is like watching Rambo leave, be like, John.
He looks over
really
his shoulder
romantic.
Psychically. Yeah. The other thing to note is Rambo is Buddhist now.
Yeah, he's happy, actually.
Which is understandable because every third person in Thailand is a Buddhist monk.
This appears to be the case.
Why they did this. But Rambo's working in a monastery.
After we get a little thing on the screen that says written by Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, he's at the top of the fucking writing credits now, baby.
One other writer. But yeah, I just wanted to make a note of that because there's some lines in this which I actually really like and think it is in part quite well written. Kind of.
There's some lines in this I really don't, which I think it is really poorly written.
We do have to comment really quickly on Colonel Troutman showing up to this, underground warehouse murder gladiatorial combat fight in Class A's with the least shaven and shaped beret in human history. And just like, Colonel Troutman, maybe the reason why you haven't pinned Brigadier General yet, being a colonel for the entirety of the Rambo franchise, is the fact that you cannot seem to get your fucking hat to fit correctly.
Nate, you didn't see his hat in the first one. It was even worse.
I've seen the first one. It's much worse. Yeah. It feels as though that's just like tropical decay. That's just like he's been in the rain often enough. It's worn his hat down slowly. It's like, a building being eroded by the wind, but like he hasn't actually done any shaving or shaping. It drove me nuts.
He's got like beret subsidence. Yeah.
I don't understand why they don't do that in movies. Like why don't they properly shape the berets?
I think that it's
because you get it off a costume guy.
Yeah.
You don't have the time to like shape it to your own head.
People are very hardworking and they do their research. You think
right, but I also think that the beret as like a U.S. military prop was such an uncommon thing because it wasn't until 2001 that it became part of the standard uniform for all soldiers. And so, like, in a way, I mean, there is a debatable argument that like it wasn't really like, as long as it was sort of reasonably within tolerance and you'd cut off the little tie flaps at the back, like it doesn't really matter. But like to the modern viewer, this guy looks absolutely ridiculous if you've seen the uniform. And that's the last of my military complaints, I promise. It's just very, very funny.
No, please.
Oh, that's going to make for a bad rest of the episode. Then
I have complaints about other things. I have some extremely funny.
I'm now going to stop talking about the military.
Nothing else.
I am going to talk about the geography of a country called Afghanistan because there's some very, very funny things in here we'll get to when we move over.
I also noted some of these. So Rambo has become happy. He's working in a monastery. He's like giving them all of his stick fighting money. At which point, Troutman and the CIA guy have traced him to this monastery. They show up, and the CIA guy goes,
I don't know how much you know about Afghanistan.
What do you know about the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan? And it's like stares directly down camera. Have you heard of the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan? It's real bad.
John Rambo, I'm here to give you the call to adventure.
Yes, yeah.
No, but Colonel, also I'm refusing the call. I'm happy now.
That is the dramatic upshot of this, but also I can't stress enough, there are times when it really does just go straight on the propaganda of like...
It's crazy.
The Soviets have invaded the peaceful nation of Afghanistan and are doing many war crimes there. It's like, okay.
Why did the Soviets invade Afghanistan?
It was right there.
In order to overthrow a previously collaborationist government that was getting a little bit too unstable for them and install a more friendly collaborationist government.
They were concerned basically that if the potted history version of it is that in 1974 the king was deposed and there was already like a succession of socialist governments that really destabilized the country, that were very, very unpopular with most of the country. I mean, back then the country was even more rural than it is now, and when I was there, it's like 90% rural. And so they basically decided that they needed to overthrow this guy who they thought was going to destabilize things to the point that it would be likely that that a foreign power, or that the West would succeed in unseating this and install someone else. And so they basically moved preemptively on Christmas 1979 and installed their guy, and then had a succession of basically people who sucked. And this didn't get any better. It got a lot worse. And they left in 89. But yeah, they invaded to basically, they were like, no, you can't do communism this fast. You're literally going to make everyone hate you. And
yeah, it was the KHAD, I think they're called, the like Afghan KGB, who were Brezhnev and others were like, no, this is too repressive, which is very funny. And they overthrew
Hafizullah Amin, who had
replaced him with Babrak Kemal. Yeah,
Babrak Kemal, and then eventually they put Dr. Najibullah in, and he lasted until the Taliban hanged him from a tank barrel in 1996.
Really with his brother, which is a bad way to go. Anyway, the point of this is Troutman says, I am going to Afghanistan. Do you want to come with me?
Y/N, and he hands a little piece of paper. And Rambo's happy. He's literally happy. He says the war's ended for me, which is
right.
And also,
I got two notes. Note number one: Troutman says the word "yes" so weird in this scene that I had to clip it. He says,
"Yes."
Yes.
AI generated Colonel Troutman.
Yeah. But the second of all is he does turf shit. He like, no,
you are like a soldier, yeah.
Assigned SF at Bragg. Like he like gets him in a temple.
Oh God.
It's weirdly echoey, so it's like strange, but he goes,
you may try, but you can't get away from what you really are.
Yeah, when they dig up your skeleton in 1,000 years, they'll see the green beret on your fucking bones.
I don't want it. That's too bad, because you're stuck with it.
I got like troop dysphoria. He's like, just live with it, repress.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your clip, but yes.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We saw it in the edit.
Slide you down. Yeah.
Colonel Troutman taking a watchful waiting approach with regards to Rambo's desire to live peacefully and be happy.
You think of yourself as a special forces soldier when you masturbate. So, but like, this
actually, Rambo is allowed
work.
to live peacefully, but only if he enrolls in a clinical trial.
But also, like this. Sorry to interrupt you, Alice. But the one thing I would say is that, like, Troutman has his one ace in the hole. But it's like when Rambo says my war is over, it's like Troutman. He killed and basically destroyed a police station in Oregon and killed like a battalion's worth of National Guard and Oregon cops, and then subsequently went and like murdered a bunch of fucking Russian dudes in Vietnam that we didn't even know were there. Like, this guy could potentially cause you PR problems in the future. Are you sure you want to take him out of his like monastic idol? Like,
Like, this can't be your go-to guy. There's no way this can be your go-to guy.
Yeah.
Doing 3 Days of the Condor, but like with Rambo is so fucking funny of an idea.
In fairness, Troutman does. Rambo says no again, and Troutman.
Well, this is the thing, though.
Okay.
There's a great line about Vietnam where Rambo says,
"Do you really think we're going to make a difference? If I didn't, I wouldn't be going. It didn't before. That was another time."
That was different.
It was different.
No,
don't ask me why.
Now, so it's gonna be better.
Yeah, literally. Like, there's a sort of like there's a real trajectory from Rambo 1 where it's like war bad, but we didn't win because of the hippies, to Rambo 2, which is the war was a lie, but like don't hate your country for it.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. To Rambo 3, where that's different. Now we're back on the horse, right?
Rambo War is good again.
Cannot wait to see what Rambo 4's stance on war is going to be. I think it probably is going to be quite positive.
My only recollection of Rambo 4 is a guy getting shot at closer range with a 50 cal and it's basically exploding soup. That's the only thing I remember about the movie.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So there then follows a scene with Troutman, which I can broadly summarize as I infiltrate Afghanistan, get immediately captured. It's not clear what kind of move I was trying to do.
I don't know what you're talking about, actually, because Rambo says no, and it like sort of like pans out, and then as I turn the movie off, I was like, perfect, that's the end of it. Really cool, very experimental, like interesting thing to do with the character.
Short film.
Don't worry about the remaining runtime. Just go outside. Mm-hmm.
You just enjoyed a short film about a guy with your haircut being happy.
Yes. And yeah, you know what? Yeah, I did. And I had a good time of it. That's it.
Troutman obviously gets immediately captured. As soon as he
gets captured. He gets captured by the helicopter from Rambo 2 with all the shit bolted on it.
Yeah,
it's the Puma helicopter with all of the like faux hind shit bolted to the side. And
Griggs
honestly,
immediately goes back to Rambo, because the Troutman getting captured is such a short scene. It really does feel like this like happened like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, it's like the next day. He's like, oh, hey.
Yeah, Griggs goes back to Rambo's like, it doesn't say we need you to go in. He says, I just wanted to let you know that your friend did this illegal off-the-books military incursion into Afghanistan and was captured. Don't do anything about it, though. Don't worry. We just wanted to let you know.
Well, that's what's really funny, is that, like, they kind of forget in the script to make this, like, a conniving CIA guy. He's not, like, he's not saying any of this ostensibly to try and get Rambo to do it. He's just like, hey, just keeping you posted on how that went.
Yeah, just
your friend's getting his dick and balls whipped in, like, fucking Kabul prison.
I thought that Griggs was going to come back later. I was like, oh, this is the shifty CIA guy. We're going to find out later he set Rambo up. Nope, he doesn't come back. He's not in the rest of the film.
No, the CIA are good now. Yeah. The CIA are good. Previously they were bad, now they're good.
So Rambo's like, okay, cool, I'm going to go and send me in. And Griggs is like, well, okay, we can do it, but obviously, if you get captured or caught, we're going to deny all knowledge of this. Nobody's going to come and rescue you. And Rambo's like, yeah, I'm used to it.
Yeah, hard line.
Used to it.
One thing,
it's the first of like one of many like movie-ass lines. I feel like the S score is going to be quite high for this one because it's got a lot of like movie-ass lines in it.
The one thing I did notice is that when Rambo's thinking about whether or not he wants to join, he goes and repairs a cartwheel, and to do that, he just hits a cartwheel 3 times with a big hammer and then spins it. And I was like, yeah.
That's how you do that.
It's just good. I like it, man.
Yeah. So Rambo goes to Peshawar, and we get the movie gets torn between 2 impulses, right? Because it instinctively wants to be racist, but it also wants to show you that these people are like freedom fighters, right?
It's strange because this film, while bad and while massively oversimplifying, and I'm being very generous, is in many ways more interested in depicting Afghan people than basically any film that was made post 9/11 that I'm aware of. I have huge blind spots, and I admit that, but to me, when I see a film in any context, whether it's a Marvel movie or a serious movie that has anything to do with the war in Afghanistan, like it's getting a massive gold star just for having people speak Pashto, because it's far easier and cheaper for them to find Urdu speakers. And they're like, well, Americans and Western audiences aren't going to notice the difference. there's a little bit where it sounded to me like people were speaking Dari, but like by and large, they're speaking Pashto. Sometimes they're speaking Pashto in a way where a guy's just saying a line over and over again. It sounds like he's casting a spell. To not skip ahead too much, the flamethrower torture guy is literally just saying, Waya, Khabri Martaka. And it's like, he's just saying, give it, give me information. Speak, give me information. And he says it over and over again. You're like, is this just like an incantation to make the flamethrower work? Because there's no
that's
delivery.
The torture mage.
Exactly. Yeah. But like when Rambo walks into the shop and the guy first starts speaking to him in Pashto when he's looking at guns, and he just says like Shiwari, like what do you want? What thing do you want? And I was like, oh well, they did at least have some attention to any detail at all, even if this film was shot in, and I'm not joking, Arizona and Israel.
So Rambo goes into this gunsmith, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm John Rambo. The CIA sent me." Which again, sort of Brian Cox award here for like introducing your name and affiliation to just like random shifty guy.
Yeah, he walks in there and he goes, "Hey, I'm meeting the mentor in this scene. I need to."
Yeah. I don't know if it's a mentor. Yeah, but like he meets.
Yeah,
he meets Mr. Afghanistan. This guy is
Afghanistan, Musa.
Our representative of Afghanistan and its noble heart. He meets Musa.
Yeah. Again, Israeli guy born in Iraq. It's sort of like it's approximating maybe sort of the like 3,000 kilometer radius of we're getting there.
Because the Pashtuns are actually the lost tribe of Israel, so it all makes sense.
The Greeks has sent some kit ahead. He sent some like detonators. Some stuff we'll see later, and also a blue light. Rambo gets
chem light, little Siloom chem light.
Yeah, Rambo gets a funny line where Moose's like, "What does it do?" And he goes, "It turns blue."
Yeah, but like, hold on a minute though. This guy Musa has been working with the CIA in Afghanistan for like years with their shit. Rambo's been up a fucking monastery. Why does he get to know that and this guy doesn't? You know, other than to show the white guy being more competent and technological. You know. Anyway. Musa says, your American friend is getting cock and ball tortured near the village of Host, right?
Okay.
Now, Nate, do you want to take this on?
So Host is a province, and Host City is the biggest city in Host province. Host is right across basically there's a mountain pass that separates it where you can go basically straight from Miram Shah in North Waziristan, I believe, to Host. So yeah, it's not a village; it's a big city. I've been to Host Province, not to Host City, but I've been to Gardez, which is in Pektia, and I've spent a lot of time in Pektika Province, so I'm familiar with the area. So a little interesting there, the village of Host, but there's a particular detail.
I did do one little population comparison. Host City is the size of Boulder, Colorado. Yeah. If anyone was curious.
Host is a big city. There's something extremely funny though. And without giving away too much, I just have to point this out that Musa takes him through the caves and says we'll be getting out and the Valley of the Five Lions, and he tells this story about mythological king told to bring 5,000 warriors, brings 5 of his best warriors, and they defeat the enemy. Well, right, Shir is lion in Dari, and Panj is 5, and Panjshir is 5 lions. Well, Panjshir Valley is north of Hagram. Panjshir Valley is hundreds of miles from Host. And this is confirmed because when the Greek guy playing Mujahideen leader later in the Shura that they're having says, the neighboring valley, Laghman province is also hundreds of miles. It's so far.
They've got all of the right words, but they're like just fucking.
They seem to be laboring under the delusion that Afghanistan is like about the size of Camden.
It's beautiful California, and the Statue of Liberty like goes past.
Yes. It's like that guy I saw riding around London with a jacket that had the Arc de Triomphe and the Place de l'Etoile and fucking like all these Paris landmarks, and then huge massive letters, and it said London.
So I gotta talk about this next scene where Troutman gets tortured, right? Where he gets interrogated. And mostly it's just gonna be me screaming about Soviet uniforms and insignia. So just ignore me, just fade me down in the mix and just like just let everyone else handle it.
Well, we meet our villain, who's a Soviet Colonel Zeissen. I really like this actor, giving like a really good performance. I think I looked up
strange accent.
I looked up the actor. His name is Mark de Jong, if I can read my own handwriting. He does a really good job in this. Sadly, tragically died in an accident very young, fell off a roof. It doesn't really do anything else. But he's really, really good at
wouldn't
this.
after that.
He's also
he's on the one hand, it's a good performance. On the other hand, he doesn't have any badges on his collar tabs. He's got like branch tabs, but he doesn't have the fucking.
He also seems to disregard the Afghan climate, despite sweating a lot. He really enjoys wearing this green leather jacket.
He chose his vibe, all right, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'm wearing the goddamn leather jacket."
He does give this very like
thing.
He's known as this person who's managed to basically stop any incursion, any infiltration of host province, but is also sort of like clearly hates it and is like very physical, but also like sweaty and alcoholic. And I feel like that in terms of like, but he also seems to insist on being in the helicopters doing the war crimes. Mm-hmm. So there is this kind of, I mean, in a way, like that's
good people management.
Exactly, he leads from the front.
Yes. He also sympathizes a bit with Colonel Sam because he says, "Look, I know how you feel. You're out here. You're stuck in the arse end of nowhere. You've been abandoned by your government. I know exactly how you feel.
You're never going to make Brigadier General.
Let's cooperate.
I'm never going to make Colonel General.
Let's cooperate, and we'll both have a good war. Okay? So just you're
exactly.
smuggling missiles into the province. Just tell me where they are. And let's just let's
give me the Stinger missiles, and I'll give you a lamp that weighs 1,000 pounds."
Unfortunately, what he does is he triggers Troutman's delivery of my review of First Blood, which is...
You expect sympathy? You started this damn war, now you have to deal with it.
Which...
One thing that really stuck out to me is that the entire time these two characters are arguing, in order to sell the drama, it's slow zooming. And it slow zooms on one, and it cuts next, it slow zooms on him, and it cuts back, and it's slow zooming. It looks like the fucking fake Balenciaga shit that was going around a little bit ago. Like, it's always just gently coming in.
Would you believe...
I'm sorry, Alice, I have to throw this in really quickly because I wasn't on the review of First Blood or the very first film, but it always struck me as being very funny that although this was a thing that I think 80s audiences would pick up on, if you came into it as like a young person not having seen the movie or the context behind it, you would think that Will Teagle and the rest of the fucking Oregon police and National Guard just hate John Rambo because they hate veterans. There's like, no, we're just gonna pick on this guy because we fucking hate
Maoist cops.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the bit we went with. Was just like these guys,
the Antifa woke cops.
Exactly, and so it's basically, he unintentionally summarizes the first film and says, now you guys get your own Vietnam. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, I have that.
You can't defeat a people like that. We tried. We already had our Vietnam. Now you're going to have yours.
Which is breathtaking, right? But like, first of all, how quickly the narrative changed. Yeah. Like the way that the narrative changed between Rambo 2, where it's like the whole damn war was a lie, to actually it was because the Vietnamese people were like ethnically Chad, and we invaded a Chad people as you did, and now you're gonna suffer too.
I do take your point that it's like Rambo 1's first the theme is war is hell, and like you said, Rambo 2 the theme is war is hell, but support your country, also it rocks. And Rambo 3 is the primary mission of U.S. Army Special Forces is unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense. Like, it's just getting to, but I guess to me, watching it as someone who was in the war in Afghanistan, it's just very funny because I've seen this movie. I've watched it on German TV in 2005 when I was visiting some friends, and just was like, oh, this is funny. Didn't really watch it ever again, but there's a part of me that watched it and was like, there was so much coding in the late 80s about sort of like, yeah, you can't fuck with the Afghans. They're indomitable. You'll never win in a fight against them. They'll never give up. And then you're like, no, but we definitely will.
We could probably do
it. we could take them, I'm pretty sure.
Well, so this line sets up an expectation. I was like, oh my gosh, like, is Rambo going to reflect on his time in Vietnam? And like, is he going to reassess what he did and like what the war was all about? No, of course not. No.
Of course not. You never look backwards, only forwards. So Troutman gets tortured a bit. He gets suspension held bondage? Up by his wrists. Yeah, he gets suspension bondage.
Yeah, weird torture method, but that's fine.
Zyson threatens him with a
huge fucking guy. By the way, massive bloke.
I've got.
We gotta talk about the big dude.
I've got to throw in here that just I will not jump ahead, but I feel as though this sets up a concept of what you might call Chekhov's big guy.
Yes.
If a big guy appears in the first act of the film, by the third act, by the conclusion, he has to do big guy shit.
He's got to do big guy shit.
This is a dude called Randy Rainey, starring as the most Samoan-looking man in the 40th Army. His name is Sergeant Kurov, And he's so clearly a wrestler, and he's wearing what is an approximation of a pilotka, but it's like half beret, and it looks AI generated. It's a hat that's just a shape. And he's like the big torturer.
They tried Devdoshina on me in Soviet army. However, my balls crushed every toilet seat they tried to employ.
Zyson threatens him with what is apparently a Polish submachine gun, but looks like the shit that killed Shinzo Abe.
Mm-hmm.
All he gets out of him is like,
what is that fucking Blade Runner ass like?
It is.
Pulls on the doohickey. That's fine.
It's
Shinzo Abe.
It's a PM63. Apparently, I've never seen one before in my life.
It's like the longsword in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet that turns out to be like a fucking South African auto shotgun that sucks and kills everyone who ever shoots it.
Fuck! Oh my god, this gun looks like hot shit. Please, God, listeners, Google PM63. Just take a look at this. It's incredible. Bad boy.
Yeah. So Troutman is defiant, right? Because he's a Chad. He's like tough under torture. He doesn't break. He's like, the missiles are like up your asshole or whatever.
Yeah.
Rambo infiltrates the Horst Panjshir Valley.
Oh my god, he's crossed the threshold. All right, I'm going to stop doing this now.
The whole time Musa's like, we Afghans are fucking tough as shit.
He's going, we're a noble people, Mr. Rambo. And then we meet these guys and they look him dead in the eyes and they go, we're a noble people, Mr. Rambo.
Yeah,
and then later on,
around
he's like, my god, they're a noble people.
Like a hospital, Musa's delivering medicine, it's all very noble. Or we learn that the Soviets are disguising mines as children's toys because they're evil.
This bit was fucking. This is hysterical, right? So it's a great half remembered thing where they have like half understood that a bunch of like cluster munitions or mines or whatever kind of look innocuous, and so children pick them up and get maimed. But what they've like derived from that is, no, these are specifically designed to look like toys. And my favorite one there is a Russian babushka doll that
you don't want to the babushka that kills you instantly. Matryoshka, by the way.
Of all the, sorry, I fucked that up.
Killer,
in my
take
head.
her out.
I know I have a Matryoshka. Anyway,
I took a look on Google Measure Distance, and from Host City to the Panjshir Valley, it says about 220 miles, and that's straight line distance, which you typically can't do on foot in Afghanistan. So
I would.
I love this, first of all, because like of all the war crimes that the Soviets actually did in Afghanistan, you had to invent one, which is really funny.
There was the thing about the little mines that what I think that look, there's a kind of dueling narrative thing, and like the one concession I'll make to call it like Democratic Republic of Afghanistan fanboys and girls is that like some of the stuff, when you dig into the really lurid details, it's like, yes, this was reported on the Milton Friedman Institute of CIA Studies at Yale University or something like that, and nowhere else. However, what I think it is that the little bomblet mines, the ones that like that fall to the ground like what is it from the seed pod kind of looking things, and that those look like toys because they just have a kind of weird shape to them, and that kids
green plastic
pick those up and they blow up. I'm not aware of, as I understand it, of ever encountering anything in that country where you could be like, oh yeah, that's one of those famous Soviet toy mines. And like I saw some Soviet ass shit in that country, and I did not ever see that. I mean, I saw every KAMAZ truck you could possibly think of. I saw like armored bulldozers that like basically ran out of fuel the minute they crossed the border. But I don't know, but like I think there was like you said, Alice, there was this conventional, this sort of like narrative of that just kind of got like telephone gamed into being even more depraved than it already was, in the sense that like they very indiscriminately used mines, in an area where there's lots of people who are itinerant, lots of people who are herders, lots of people farming, people wander around, people are scavenging, and lots of people died and got maimed from it. And it's like, but as you said, they have created a worse version of it. They sort of like
a Matryoshka doll. Yes. One other thing that's funny is that they go into this village, and Musa, the first thing he says to Rambo is, they've never seen a white dude before. They've never seen anyone who looks like you. Second thing he shows him is a Russian dude who's defected.
Have you noticed that basically there's an arbitrary law in this film that if you are not Afghan, as the film sees it in real life, Russian, French, Israeli, Arizonan. If you are not cast as an Afghan character, you must not ever wear a hat.
That's true.
Yuri does not wear a hat. Rambo does not wear a hat.
Rambo wears a headband.
But his hair is flying like the wings of a majestic
you gotta
bird.
be beautiful.
Troutman wears hats, doesn't he?
I do.
Charlie's got a hat.
I do have to give the movie. I give the movie some credit, right? Because this is something I didn't know, and I had to dig into to check this. There were Soviet soldiers who defected
a significant number,
to the Taliban.
Yeah, so I mean, there were Soviet soldiers, many of whom who defected at that time were draftees from the Central Asian republics,
Tajikistan.
But because a significant number of the Soviet troops that were deployed in what they called the limited contingent of Soviet forces were from those areas, because the army group that they pulled from to deploy down there was that area of the Soviet Union. But then also there were plenty of ethnic Russians who did, and in fact, some of them have stayed. There was a story in post-collapse of Afghanistan in 2021 of people who were Soviet soldiers who stayed and basically converted to Islam, adopted, Afghan names, married Afghan women, and stayed and will stay. Like they
apparently there's 226 left by the Russian embassy in Afghanistan's count at one point.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. There's things about Afghanistan, they're fucked up, but there's also things about Afghanistan where you could just kind of get the impression of this is just a completely different way of living your life. And I understand why people who grew up basically, if they were dissatisfied with both life in the Soviet Union, but particularly life in the Soviet military, why they'd be like, yeah, this is fucking better. I'd rather do that. Genuinely.
Yeah.
What do you reckon the funniest toy to fill with munitions would be? Because I've been really weighing it up. Yeah, Bop It's up there. I'm thinking Rock'em Sock'em Robots, maybe.
Bop It, but only at the end.
Yeah.
Only on the bop.
Fisher Price See and Say, but only one of them has an explosive in it, and you don't know which.
It's a Bop It, but it's just got a grenade pin in one end. It doesn't mention pull it until right in the end, and it's like, pulling it away.
Yeah, it's like the cow
you pull
says,
it, the spoon flies off.
The Italian anti-tank mine says.
Hungry hippos?
Ooh,
we actually bought a set of Hungry Hippos and played it with Afghan kids when I was there. So, I feel like I have an emotional attachment with Hungry. I can't envision that being full of munitions, but
it's a cute little
toy. We get a couple of other things here. We get a shot that is 100% a ripoff of the Time magazine cover of the Afghan refugee mother with the really stark eyes.
Oh, Sharbak Gula. We get the Steve McCurry photo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We get a really cheap imitation of that. And then we try and complicate this a bit because we're like, oh, by the way, the Mujahideen are also using child soldiers.
We have this beautiful Pashtun refugee girl, but actually it's an Israeli actor named Tzvi Bolognese. Look, just check the credits of the film. Basically, 2/3 of the cast.
Yeah.
I'm seeing an Afghan girl here played by Marciano Soshi.
Yeah, Soshi Marciano. Yeah.
That's pretty much there.
I'm not wrong. I know I'm not wrong. I wouldn't open my mouth if I didn't know that I was right on this one.
No, the other stick fighter was called Harold Diamond.
Damn, that's cool.
That's hard as hell.
So they have a shura, right, and they meet the head of this village who is called Masood, presumably in reference to Ahmad Shah Masood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The George Washington of Afghanistan. Don't ask what happens to that guy 2 days before 9/11.
Please never take an interview with random Algerian journalists that you've never met before.
Yeah.
He says, we are a noble people, Mr. Rambo.
Well, he also...
He's also Greek.
This is...
The actor playing him is Greek.
This is the closest you get to noble Mujahideen of Afghanistan, as he explains.
Mujahideen soldiers, holy warriors. To us, this war is a holy war.
And the best thing about this is you could put this in Act 2 of a post 9/11 Afghan war movie, and all you would have to change is the music. You change that to foreboding music, and that's
maybe get an
Homecoming
oud
season
playing
2.
And someone being like, ah! Yeah, absolutely. It's basically Black Hawk Down.
Just a guy filling time in the background.
He also makes the point that the Russians have been, giving them a real kicking, but nobody seems to care. So they're like, look, will rescuing your friend really help us? Because if so, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand first that we are a noble people, Mr. Rambo.
Yes.
One thing that I find interesting about this is that this is one of the complaints that you heard was the flow of munitions to the Mujahideen in the early 80s. They complained a lot about the basically Vietnam cast-off shit they were getting. But by 87, they were getting Stinger missiles. They were getting a lot of, and this film basically is set in 1988 because it's literally, they say 9 years into this war, so Christmas 79, so it's got to be around then. But by 88, they were getting a ton of munitions from, basically the US was giving them to Pakistan and they were bringing them over. And so in a way, it feels like a lot of this stuff and the sort of like no one cares about our plight, like it was a right-wing cause celeb for a while at this point. But this movie it's not meant to depict reality in the moment. It's meant to basically be baby's first Afghanistan. And so as a result, like it has to do that to kind of like tell the Western narrative about the occupation of Afghanistan from 79 to that point, through, I guess, exposition, through characters sort of like summarizing it to John Rambo, who basically, the whole point of this film is that, he, as regards him there is just sort of like injustice is being done, but also what the fuck is Afghanistan? So, he has to learn about Buzkashi. He has to learn about child soldiers.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, among other things.
He goes to like see a game match of Buzkashi, the like horseback sheep. Semi-wrestling,
which is
polo.
More of a northern Afghan thing, to be honest with you, but it is the thing for sure.
And at this point, they get interrupted by a Soviet helicopter attack, and this is the like right-wing cause célèbre, right? And it's like it's a real thing. It happened, right? I'm not trying to like suggest that it didn't.
Even Robert Fisk,
it's a narrative,
when he reported there, was like the shit we saw the Soviets doing was insane, like absolutely mind-bogglingly insane.
Absolutely. Like you get like a sort of a village that you consider to be hostile off of nothing, and so you like shell it with artillery or whatever.
Depopulate it so it's no longer a threat to you, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this case, what it is you fly some helicopter gunships over it, and you kill indiscriminately, right? And this is the reason why the CIA like give the Taliban and the Northern Alliance, well, the Mujahideen at this point, they give them the Stinger missiles, right? And this is sort of like the obsession of the right wing is like these people are being slaughtered by helicopters and have like sort of like no means of defending themselves. And I really think there's an interesting essay to be written about the like psychology of the helicopter in the Rambo franchise, because it's in fucking all of them.
Yeah, it is.
And
it's really got a thing about helicopters. Weird roles. But also, again, Rambo does not reflect on the role that he himself played in Vietnam, and how like maybe, oh shit, this is what we would do to the Vietnamese. Maybe I need to think about that.
This is basically the, I love the smell of napalm in the morning scene from Apocalypse Now, except you've changed the color palette.
Yes, yeah. So Rambo shoots at a helicopter with a Dushka, heavy machine gun, and the helicopter, in fantastic response, stops dead and like hovers really low to like look for him.
The best fucking thing about that is the visual shorthand. They have the helicopter move like it was looking around. They just have the helicopter move. It's fucking.
It's like the helicopter is in the Cars universe for a split second. It becomes anthropomorphic.
So funny.
So everybody's been killed apart from like Masood Musa, this one kid who's been following Rambo around.
He's basically a child soldier short round.
People.
Yeah, meanwhile, Rambo's
still like, Irish child.
They're noble
Italian,
people.
But
the Soviets are after me, Lucky Charms.
Mamma mia!
They're after my mother's secret recipe.
So he speaks to Masood, and Masood's like, "Yeah, we're taking all these people to the border. As historically huge influx of Afghan refugees into Pakistan." He says, "We are good friends, inshallah."
Yeah, incredible.
Like, yeah, that sort of
sort
of makes sense.
Okay.
That sort of makes sense. You could say that, I guess. We cut back to Troutman getting tortured, and the Colonel's accent's getting worse. At one point, he says,
"Have you decided to talk?"
It's just
what the fuck is his accent doing?
Have you decided to TikTok?
This is what actually happened to Goldfinger. He just became Russian.
The accent
closing
started
in
off
on South Africa.
Not great. Keeps going.
The TikTok mock. So
Rambo's like, mock. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna get him even harder now than I was gonna get him before. It's my war now. It's more like movie ass lines. So Rambo crawls across the minefield.
Flawless minesweeping tactic.
Stick a knife. Well, you can do that's
a thing. But
sure, but it gets into something, which is that this series considers big fucking knife to be like the ultimate multi-tool.
There was a
you
part
can
of
use
me
it for essentially anything.
I was just like, John, buddy, surely you have a wire cutter. Like, you don't need to use
he uses his fucking knife to cut, like...
To pick a lock, to cut barbed wire, to probe for mines, among other things. Yeah. Also, when he uses it, like, I guess John Rambo is an ADHD king, and he needs to make sure he doesn't forget stuff. So when he uses his knife and needs to put it in a place he can find it, instead of resheathing it, he just jams it as hard as he can into anything in front of him.
He just does... He doesn't even, like, use the knife that much in Rambo 1, but it's just a thing Rambo has in Rambo 1, so they're just like, fuck it, make him use the knife.
Knife is all he needs.
He's got Rambo's iconic knife now, I guess.
I also, they cut a scene of him forging the knife himself, by the way.
They should have put that back in.
Yeah, when he was fucking in a Buddhist monastery in Okinawa learning how to make knives from Hattori Hanzo. Like, there's a whole arc to this.
If it's a Hanzo blade, I understand then.
Also, I will say this is a little bit funny, is that I understand that, like, there's a visual language that needs to be employed to communicate the danger and the sort of stakes to the viewer. But, you know, watching this from trying to not be annoying ex-military viewer, but, like, the degree of, like, the sort of the site security there on the base, it stops resembling anything actually military and starts more resembling like the villains in Captain Planet, because like it's just they like the degree of which it's like all right, this may not be interesting to you, but I'm just going to say this, like if you maintain security like that at a base nonstop, like you exhaust everyone because no one can do anything besides, you know, very, very actively turn fucking floodlights and walk with dogs. Also, the dogs would have fucking smelled him when he was hiding right above them. There are some parts of me that I'm just like, guys, all right, fine. I guess dogs are like tyrannosaurs, that if they don't see you, they can't smell you. We don't use dogs for anything besides their sight. But watching this happen, like, I get it. Like, they have to set up the stakes, but it started to feel like kind of, I don't know, video gamey in a way to me watching this.
Yes, yeah, genuinely.
Usually so.
I thought exactly of Metal Gear Solid 5, which I guess this was a huge influence on. I thought of Metal Gear Solid 1, the very first one on NES, and just like that's exactly what came to mind. But then later in the film, without jumping ahead too far, there is a scene in which he basically, like, there's a sentry just kind of hanging out like you think he would be on his phone, except smartphones haven't been invented yet. And it's like, that is perhaps more realistic. That when you've got guys on, 6 or 8 hour shifts just fucking staring at a valley forever, like they fuck around, and he takes advantage of that. Like this degree of alert would be like, we've gotten intel that an attack is imminent, but it also implies they have no idea an attack is coming. Yeah. So Rambo infiltrates the base. He like rides under a tank.
Masood and the kid are both with him.
Yeah. He like tries to send the kid back because he's like, he doesn't want to use a child soldier and commit a war crime. But the kid kind of like follows him anyway.
But the kid insisted. So
exactly. He's like, he's like, I've seen Ivan's childhood, or at least the first 2/3 of it. I have no idea how it ends. This will be fine.
Yeah, seen the first minute of Come and See. So. Inside
just
the
turned
fort,
off, was like, good movie, great, really interesting.
Yeah. Zyson is having a guy tortured with a flamethrower, which is a great idea. You want to use those indoors.
I don't know if you clipped that line, but like, I have not spoken passion in a really long time. I said it previously, but I'm telling you, every single time that guy's in the scene, he's always saying, "Waya waya habari martaka," or habari mataka. Literally, he's saying like,
"Speak."
Why? I can't speak. Talk.
Yeah.
Give me information. And it's like
that dude's
same delivery every time.
That dude's wearing a pastiche of a Soviet armored uniform because they're black, and I guess that looks more sinister. But the implication there is that like they got this guy out of a tank, and they were like, "Okay, bring your flamethrower, and then just come and interrogate this guy." And he knows like 2 words or like 2 lines of
They
Pashto.
code him as a special unit, basically. They're just like,
yeah.
they've got
like
a flamethrower guy.
So Rambo manages to find the colonel, but he doesn't manage to get him out in time.
Does this sexy pose when he lands, when he drops into the base. It's really weird.
They have to escape. They have to make a run for it into the sewers.
He gets like a piece of shrapnel through his abdomen, and then gets a bunch of turds in his open wound, which is
okay. He cauterizes it with the powder from a single 7.62 round.
Let's talk about the cauterization strategy.
Yes.
First of all, look, I recognize that like there's a certain willing suspension of disbelief, but as a non-medical professional, but someone who has been injured in a variety of stupid ways, military and otherwise, I do not think that you can have a clean penetration through your abdomen in any place, have it come out the front of you, and that not be an injury that is likely going to kill you if you don't get medical attention within, let's just say 12 hours. I mean, like really golden hour, but 12. I'll say 12 hours. So the fact that like basically 1.762 rounds worth of powder is enough to cauterize it to fix it all. Once that's done, like that injury basically is only ever referenced visually, but he's not walking like with a wince or anything, is amazing to me. But it's like, because we've seen him cauterize wounds with gunpowder before, I believe, in previous times, and they have to up the stakes. So this time he's got to do it in a spectacular way in which flames shoot out of both ends of this perforation.
This is insane.
I just fucking lost it laughing.
I missed the fully the next 10 minutes of movie because I was just thinking about why you made every decision in that process. Why would you do any of that?
Also, like, props to surviving getting penetrated by like the shrapnel bomb that fires the devil's hot dog at you or whatever the fuck that thing was that came out of him.
Yeah, we got Phineas Gage through the fucking torso.
It is like, it's curiously penetrative, this scene. It's also much like Rambo 2. It's gay as fuck. He's like there with his shirt off. He's like putting stuff inside himself and like grunting. It's like, no, there's subtext here. But
meanwhile, Zyson is giving Colonel Sam a beating, and Colonel Sam's like, you're fucked like now, my boy's coming. No, sorry. No, he's saying, right, my boy's fucking
hold on.
coming.
This is important. I want to do this. So, on the way out, Rambo fires an RPG at a truck, right? But the noise that this truck makes when it explodes, I swear to God they mixed a donkey into the explosion noise, right? He fires this RPG and it goes...
Shit! Oh, shit!
That's got like 3 dinosaurs in there as well, man. That sounds like...
There's a donkey sound. I swear to God, there's a donkey sound.
Mixing animals into the fucking explosions.
Rambo
I didn't want to miss that because...
a mule.
Yeah, Rambo fires an RPG.
See, there I was,
the Soviets used to do that. It was like kids would go and pet with the mule.
The sheer volume of horses they were using, and I was like, but where are the donkeys for pack animals? I'm like, the reason is the Soviets had all the donkeys inside one truck.
Like compressed into one thing.
Donkey pack animal, yeah.
So Colonel Sam is getting a beating
from
Zyson. Please. And Zyson's just like, who is this guy? Like, who is this fucking Rambo guy? He's not God. And then Sam has this line where he's like, God would have mercy, Rambo won't. And it's like, again, for fuck's sake.
What do you mean? Like, the rhetorical increase in power of Rambo over the course of these movies from just like, oh, like, this guy is a match for a fucking, like, do-nothing fucking police battalion. That's it. Like, some guys from the fucking police squad won't be able to kill this guy. Now he's John Wick.
Yeah.
There's just, like, no... like, oh, this guy's actually a killing machine. This guy's actually fucking... the greatest warrior of all time.
They were just like, oh, well, he's got specialist knowledge of the area. That's why we're sending him in, because this is the prison camp he escaped from. And now in this one, they're just like, no, Rambo's just the ultimate soldier. And it's like,
yeah, he's just based, actually.
He's just God. Yeah. So Rambo, he gives the kid his like dead girlfriend necklace from Rambo 2. And then he effortlessly infiltrates the base he just infiltrated again.
A second time.
By doing some fucking
just to flash
forward to one of his later movies by doing Cliffhanger and climbing up a sheer rock face to get on top where a board guard is playing with his imaginary... He can only envision what the Soviet iPhone would look like. And
he's playing Hungry
exactly,
Hippos.
And
he's playing Tetris.
Exactly, and he's able to he's able to jump down a hatch. We'll break a dude's neck and then jump down a hatch, basically right back into previous scene. While a search and rescue is, or rather a sort of I can't remember the doctrinal term, but the Spetsnaz guys are searching around the area looking for Rambo outside of the base, and I could only imagine Alice's reaction to Soviet uniform fits. Because this is like the Soviet uniform fit moment. The hats, the boonie hats, the fucking satchels, like the side packs, all these things. Like I watched this scene and I was just like, I know Alice knows the name of, and like literally national stock number bracket Soviet of every single one of those items.
Yeah. They get every single thing wrong here, but the reason why they do that is because they got these Soviet uniforms from the production of Red Dawn. That, like, genuinely, those were the only set going around in Hollywood when they made these. And so you have this, like, faux KLMK sort of, like, camouflage oversuits, You have like a faux Telnyashka that's just a stripy top. You have a bunch of like weird attempted Panamkas that are actually like French tropical hats. It looks fucking weird. But so Rambo breaks in, frees the prisoners, steals a helicopter, and then Zyson sees it in time.
Lines. They're like, "Can you fly that thing?
Yeah.
Let's find out."
It's starting to hit territory.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
They start shooting at the helicopter immediately, and like within a second, they are doing the Rambo 2 thing again of hotboxing the back of the helicopter. They just have the smoke machine going.
I'm not just imagining any like Roger Moore line, but in the Rambo voice. But I need you.
So does England.
Yeah. Say one.
So does England. If you close on, I buy you an ice cream.
Another extremely non-Afghan extra, small role where the guy gets hit but survives and is hanging off the skids of the helicopter, and or the side of it. I can't remember if they're skids or not. And Colonel Troutman reaches over to grab him, and then it's like they cast this guy like, you're gonna have a real dramatic scene. It's like, actually secretly we're just testing out this cool new fucking squib to make your head explode when they shoot you, and he falls. So it's like we saved some refugees, well, except one. And then Rambo has to crash land the helicopter. Yeah.
What's really funny about the crash scene is there's a bit that they just, I guess they couldn't have done otherwise than leave it in. There's a bit where all the shit they've bolted onto the helicopter just falls off at once. Like both the wings, all the fake rocket pods and shit, and it just like all collapses instantly.
Yeah, it's like a Tears of the Kingdom gadget that you spent ages building, and then somebody just wants to do it, and it just...
And a slight callback to when Rambo's firing at the base when they're shooting at him is that like it takes him about a minute of cinema time to figure out like, oh, there's a thing called a rocket I can fire. Like,
it's crazy, man. I don't know.
So they rescue the refugees. They leave them to go to the border, and when they leave them, they say, "Inshallah, I form an idea in my head. I will conclude this thought later."
Oh, God.
But so then it's just Rambo and Troutman.
Yeah,
versus the border.
Soviet Russia.
Well, we get a really cute little exchange where they're running along, and Troutman says, "How's the wound?"
I have this.
And Rambo says, "Oh, you always taught us to ignore pain." And Troutman's like, "Is it working?" And Rambo just goes, "Not really."
It's like the only bit of their banter that's fun.
Yeah,
they do so many like bits of banter, and that's the only one.
So basically,
good.
An entire battle group shows up, and they refuse to surrender. Rambo engages with a 40mm grenade launcher, and then
before this though, Rambo shoots down a helicopter with an arrow.
Does the exploding arrow?
That is true. Yes,
but when he does this, listen to the explosion sound. There was a mule aboard that helicopter.
No, a mule.
I know.
There was a mule in that helicopter.
It was the new phase of the Soviet 40th Army's fucking like unconventional warfare occupation. Is they're going to remove every donkey in Afghanistan and use it as a fucking hostage on every aircraft.
Listen. Once again, okay, you fill a mule with explosives, the kids are going to go pet it. That's one use. However, you drop an explosive-filled mule out of a helicopter, how many people are going to start running away when they see that? They're going to go,
"That's true.
Is that a fucking mule?"
That's true.
They're going to stand stock still. This is perfect. This might be a war
This is
crime.
where we get the this is where we get the like he's hunting us one by one scene. Is a bunch of Spetsnaz in like a cave system.
We even get
Rambo,
a Batman
like,
moment
steals
where one of them goes, "What are you?" And Rambo's like, "Your worst nightmare." It kills them.
And Rambo, he grabs a radio and he calls Zyson, who's like flying his own helicopter. He's like above the thing, and he just goes like, "I'm gonna kill you." And it's like this came out the same year as Die Hard, and you see why Die Hard was like such a breath of fresh air. Is doing the same bit, but like so much less inspired. He shoots a guy with the chem lights. We finally got a use for the little blue light thing, and what that does is it frenzies all of the other Spetsnaz guys to shoot their own dude because he's blue now.
That happens, and that's like a thing. That's a known thing with Spetsnaz. It's part of the training.
That's true.
I mean, in fairness, when Rambo's
jump through fire,
Rambo's clearing the prison full of Afghan hostages room by room by just throwing grenades into each room. I'm like, wow, accurate Soviet doctrine and American doctrine in Panama.
so now Rambo has to wrestle with the most Samoan dude in the Russian army.
Yeah. Fuck. We missed one of the greatest shots in the cinematic history. Which so obviously naturally I have to go back. The bit where he escapes a bomb is the funniest series of shots I've ever seen in my life, because it's just Rambo running away from like fire. Like he rolls out of the way and then some fire lands on where he was, and it liquid.
It almost looks like the fire is, I don't know, like if chroma key is the right term, what they were using back in those days, but like the best way I can describe it, it feels like a fire matte painting. And it's just like dropped in front and in back. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. And
it's perfect, man.
And it's so perfect that it's sort of like it's seeing the origin of the cliche in unironic form. It's just a strange
running straight towards the camera, and behind him is like chroma key, just like wall of orange flame. Just perfect. That's fucking cinema as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, Chekhov's Mongo.
Like, how are you? And he goes, well done.
Chekhov's Mongo. The way he defeats him, he can't beat him in wrestling. The guy's too strong. So what he does is the guy's got him in like a headlock, and Rambo pulls the pin of a grenade that's like on his webbing, and this makes the guy drop him.
He has crazy mode, yeah.
Yeah, he drops him and he like tries to get the grenade off of himself and is not able to, and explodes, because as we've seen in Rambo 2, once you fuck with Rambo, once you're like a known enemy of Rambo, what's gonna happen is you explode. Like he has no other way of like settling grudges.
He pulls this pin, and this guy does like the full Dishonored guard when he's getting attacked by a rat swarm thing. He just like takes 3 steps backwards and just starts swinging his arms. And it's like, but get the grenade off you. So this is the most
Rambo
confirmed kill of all time. This man, he
killed.
falls down the hole that Rambo climbed back out. He's wrapped around with a fucking rope of some description, which catches, snaps his neck, and then he explodes.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Like, confirmed kill. Perfect. That's fucking cinema.
Rest in peace, Sergeant Kurov, I guess. Could have killed Rambo. Just like get him keep him in the bear hug you had him in.
Fumbling the Kronstein Rosette bag at the last minute.
Yeah,
really
genuinely, by trying to save himself.
This is like why I pulled it back from Gobinder in Octopussy. Just went out too bitch made.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a shame.
Yeah, sad to say. So Rambo and Troutman have to try and like flee to the border, and then, as you say, Nate, they are like intercepted by the entire Soviet Union. They are like allegedly T-72s. They got something that looks like a Shilka that isn't. And the helicopter again. And weirdly, Zyson doesn't want to kill them. He keeps trying to like capture them alive.
Yeah.
So they're just like standing there, and he's like, "Drop your weapons." Many times.
Drop your weapons and we will engage you here on terrain where for some reason people have dug trench line. Don't understand why.
There's no reason.
It's fine.
So yeah, there's a trench they jump into. They're able to hold them off. The trench is just there. It's not a wadi. It's not erosion. It's just a defensive.
Just a trench.
Yeah.
Rambo has an M203 that someone has like mated to an AK for him. Because
good catch. I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's a really good catch, Alex.
It's an M203.
Yeah,
it is.
It's definitely a 203, but like I just didn't. It didn't even clock that he wasn't using and at the time would have been an M16. Like that, it was. Yeah, like you said, made it onto an AK-47. Yeah. Well, good catch.
Yeah. It's literally like welded on. I think.
And the fucking Rohirrim arrive.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, the 10,000 Mujahideen horsemen who have been waiting for weapons over the border. Including that kid.
They brought the kid.
I guess the kid
sacrificial offering
went to get him. I don't know.
Yay, child soldiers!
Yeah,
it's a land of contrasts, is what I'll definitely say about using child soldiers.
Many of them get killed. We at least see that. Lots of horses do like stunt falls.
Yeah. It's basically Immortan Joe showing up to harass the Soviet army, but then they only have what look like Lee Enfield rifles. And so
I'm looking at Rambo and I'm like, man, it would be helpful if you had any more of those extremely explosive arrows right now. I guess you just brought one.
He only had one spare.
I could have sworn in the scenes when he's running around after he's blown up a helicopter and some of the dudes with that he's got more in his quiver.
Oh, he kills one guy with one of those. Yeah,
he loves to do
failure
that.
to like husband your resources. You know, you gotta like you're looking at the helicopter later, and you're like, I should have killed that
that's
one
like
dude.
a thing they knew they would never get it past a test audience if John Rambo can kill a helicopter with an arrow, but he never gets to shoot a dude with it. Like this, just no one's going to accept that.
Listen, round one of combat, highest level spell slot you've got on one guy. Just fucking let it go. See what happens.
Yeah. Rambo hits a T-72 with a Molotov.
Resources are
which
insane.
Makes them...
Yeah, him running with the fucking Molotov is so funny.
It's
oh
very
my
funny.
god. Because he's... Right. This is my last time I'm going to go insane. There's this beautiful decision to like cut to a reaction shot of Troutman, but Troutman is way too far back, so his expression looks like someone who's like at the back of a ball game trying to see what's going on. So it just cuts to it, and he's like, and then
That's
back
Rambo.
to the fucking guy.
Not sure what you're going
he
with
manages
this.
to disable a T-72 by making its engine block a little hot.
They overheat the engine, which makes the crew unilaterally and unanimously pop the hatches and try and kill him with like an AKS.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they do this.
Yeah. Rambo
Very
kills
sporting.
them.
Phase 2 of the fight, he whittles down the tank's health bar, and then he has to fight all the guys inside. Like,
He like
is just a
gets
video game.
in the tank. The tank is fine now, which really just proves kind of that they were idiots for getting out of it. And he engages, because Zyson's still in this helicopter, which is at about 5 feet of altitude. He engages in what I can only describe as a tank joust.
Yeah.
Now, there's two things I want to say here. First of all of this scene is just yelling. And second of all, I have a sample of that yelling, which involves him driving the tank into the helicopter and killing Zyson. But listen out, in the mix, in the end.
Holy shit!
yeah, it was
there
in
at the
there.
end.
It was definitely in there.
There was a donkey. There was absolutely a donkey in there.
Had a mule.
Also, like,
There was a
mule in the
Listen-
helicopter.
Listening to that sound design, I think it's actually pretty. It's an underestimation for people to say Americans can't produce anime, because like
Yeah, genuinely.
Why are there mules?
So
I don't know.
Don't worry
I
about it.
can't
it's like they
possibly-
couldn't license that scream that gets used in every movie, and so they just had to get a donkey.
The Wilhelm scream, yeah.
So why did Zorro
it's the
blow up
Wilhelm
all those
donkey.
panthers?
I will be thinking about the mules of Rambo 3 for a minute, I'll be honest.
It's gonna be, the fucking episode art will be an exploding mule. I'll put when I get there, like I
Thank
did
you.
for Rambo.
So Zyson is killed.
Mm-hmm.
The Soviets are also all killed. They're not even like routed. They're just killed. And then we get to two final things that I want to say. First of all, I get to confirm my theory, which is they leave the Mujahideen, and as they leave, they get in the Jeep and they say, Inshallah. This movie thinks that Inshallah is Arabic for goodbye.
It does.
And I guess also Pashto for goodbye. It thinks
it's Khodai Paman in Pashto, and so it's like I was confused by that too. I was like, Inshallah what? Inshallah what? Like what's
it's bye.
Yeah.
It means goodbye.
I mean, you could say like Mashallah. It's like, yeah,
incredible.
Mashallah, you blew up a helicopter with a fucking arrow. Badass. But yeah, I was confused.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my thing. Inshallah means goodbye. But second of all, what's the one thing anyone remembers about Rambo 3?
Dedicated to the gallant people of Afghanistan.
Yeah, and the sort
man.
of folk memory that
change it back.
The folk memory that it was actually the brave Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan, but that I even had that false memory. I was convinced that I saw that when I watched it on German TV, but like in retrospect, everything says that's not the case. And I even looked at Wikipedia, and apparently like movie reviews, contemporary movie reviews were like, oh yeah, the gallant people of Afghanistan, blah, blah, blah. So like
That doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah,
I choose actually to believe
it genuinely
that it says that.
It never said that this film was dedicated to the noble Mujahideen fighters of Afghanistan. Although it kind of is. Like, it does think that they're cool. It does think that they're inherently Chad. And it does think that fighting them automatically turns into Vietnam War 2. But it's not dedicated to them. It's dedicated to the gallant people of Afghanistan. That's not the funniest line with time that the movie ends on. The thing is, right, they ask Rambo if he wants to stay and fight, with the Mujahideen. And what Rambo says, oh my god, this little exchange.
You sure you don't want to stay? You fight good for a tourist.
Maybe next time.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Fucking parachute him in 2001.
See, I was thinking
Rambo.
Yeah. I was thinking a different angle. He's also visited at the next Buddhist monastery in Southeast Asia by a guy from a road construction company from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. No, Rambo was like killed by the CIA in like the opening shots of the war in Afghanistan. They knew they had to take him out because he was there. Yeah, he made a run for like one CIA guy and got shot. Yeah. Oh my god. Maybe next time. Yeah, I mean.
Also, did you notice the animal sound in the background? Is that like the ending of Charlie Wilson's War, but it's donkey threatening 9/11?
So yeah, possibly the movie made retroactively funniest by 9/11. That's Rambo 3.
I mean, sorry, it's still the original Super Mario Brothers movie.
Nah, maybe. Although,
you know what's funny is I never saw it because I heard, even as a little kid, I'd heard the reviews of it were so bad, and the concept of it, from what I'd seen, still seemed so awful that. But I will.
Bowser destroys the World Trade Center.
Oh, really? So Dennis Hopper as Bowser and Bob Hoskins as Mario do 9/11.
Master of Disguise also, but like it's not anything textual. It's all behind the scenes stuff.
Right, like the third funniest movie retroactively because of 9/11. What does it say about masculinity?
There's a lot going on here. I think it's safe to say.
Are there any women?
Refugees.
No, that's why it's so weird.
Italiano spaghetticini.
Yeah. That's why it's so weird that he has this like arc with this boy. Right? It's the place where most other scripts would put a romantic thing. But he's already had that in Rambo 2, so they can't do it again. So they did a great job of it. So
they had to find the most beautiful Italian boy in Tel Aviv and put him in this role.
That casting call was
preserving
weird,
another noble cultural tradition of the gallant people of Afghanistan.
Giuseppe Stromboli as young Afghan Rambo. Gucci or Gucci is...
Here's something else. What a fucking set of credits music, huh?
Oh yeah, the song is
jarring
so
as hell. Or
yeah, it sounds like
I downloaded it. It rules.
He ain't heavy. He's my brother. Yeah, no, it's a good song. It's just baffling to have
Very
it here.
gay.
Does that have to do with yeah. Also, I will say, would you believe that Sylvester Stallone fired the director like mid-movie?
What, with such great directorial decisions as slow zoom and helicopter looks around?
Correct me if I'm wrong, he also fired it primarily, if I remember reading this correctly, because he thought that the Russians cast to play the villains were too beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, I have the quote here. He went to Israel 2 weeks before me with the task of casting 24 vicious-looking Russian troops. This is Stallone speaking. These men were supposed to make your blood run cold. When I arrived on the set, what I saw was 24 blonde, blue-eyed, pretty boys that resembled rejects from a surfing contest. Needless to say, Rambo is not afraid of a little competition, but being attacked by third-rate male models could be an enemy that could overwhelm him. I explained my disappointment to Russell, and he totally disagreed, so I asked him and his chiffon army to move on.
It's Russell Mulcahy, right? Isn't he the guy who directed... this might be completely wrong. Isn't he the guy who directed the video for Total Eclipse of the Heart?
Yes, it is. Again, insane pull, but yes, yeah.
It's a crazy pull.
Oh my god.
He replaced him. He replaced him with the second unit director. It was his first film as a director, and as that dude said, I tried very hard to change the Rambo character a bit and make him a vulnerable and humorous person. I failed totally.
Yeah, no, it's not a good fucking movie, I'll tell you that.
No. I think it was better than the second one.
I think, you know what? It's better than the second one because it's stupider. It's not in the... It's not...
I also think that in the context of having seen these kinds of films only through, post 9/11 films that deal in any way with the war in Afghanistan, this film, by virtue of wanting to portray the Afghans as friends, winds up being less dismissive and one note. Even though it is still dismissive and one note, it is the bar is below the floor, and so as a result, it winds up seeming more humane in that depiction than basically anything I've ever seen. Like Brothers, at least has people speaking Pashto, but like you'd think every Afghan woman is a witch wearing a burqa. Like, it's horrible. Like, it's so. Look, like, I'm not exactly like. I know my own background makes this kind of weird, but like, I didn't come out of the experience hating Afghan people, and in fact, like, I find it very, very strange when like every Afghan person, every person from Central Asia, it's always, you know, an oud and a howling world music singer, like to tell you in strange modes to make you know this is evil and threatening. Like, this film weirdly doesn't do. I mean, I know why it doesn't do that because of the era in which it was made and the Cold War context, but like, it's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking terrible. Like, as an action movie, as a Rambo movie, like, it is so clunky. It doesn't surprise me why they waited 20 years to make another one. But my God,
I guess they were embarrassed.
Stallone asks,
like, how the fuck would you make another one when you've just invaded Afghanistan yourself?
I think that's why they had to set it in Burma, and I think also that's why like the Rambo 4. It's like so much has changed in the way war movies are presented and how violence on screen is presented between 88 and 08 that like Rambo 4's sort of appeal is like, okay, we found an enemy depoliticized and venal enough for us to like try to demonstrate all of these movie effects, like all of these like blood, special effects, etc. Like, I think you guys will be shocked. It's so much more violent.
Also sort of a right-wing sort of like cause celeb, but we'll get into that. In the meantime, we have a science-based system. It's called the SCUM system. It stands for SMARM, cultural insensitivity, unprovoked violence, and misogyny. How smarmy is this movie?
I think it's the smarmiest Rambo we've had. I would say
Fully.
it's like
It certainly
4
is.
or 5.
Yeah,
It's really up there.
I was going to say at least 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm happy with 4.
Go for a 4.
4?
Cultural insensitivity. I feel
Depends
like
what the
this might
previous
be
one
on the
was.
lower side,
Previous
to be
one
honest.
was 10.
Yeah, I think it probably deserves 3, and maybe a little higher than you were thinking. But I think number 1 because of, for example, Alice, some of the things you pointed out with just the total, you know, trip on your own dick misunderstanding of stuff like Inshallah. But I think primarily because of its depiction of Thai people.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Also, very, very insulting to the Soviet army. You know,
Is that it's a culture?
Well, I promise I won't make this go too long. Really quickly, there is a film that came out. It was not mass released and it's really hard to find, but you can get it on YouTube by like buying it, by like renting it on YouTube. It's a film called Afghan. It's AFGAN. It's basically an American film crew did it almost like cinema verite kind of thing. It's a very kind of like tongue in cheek, but documentary where they were allowed to embed with Soviet units in Afghanistan in '88, I believe.
That's where
that scene,
Who Will Save the World comes from.
Where they're basically, it's like this convoy and it's playing
on the BTR.
BTR and playing German synth pop from the 80s, and then they get ambushed and almost get hit by an RPG, and it's like the sound is that sets the thing. This movie, like you said, exploding donkeys, I laugh, I don't react really, whereas that thing, hearing an actual RPG go by, I'm like, fuck, that's harrowing. So yeah, like to me it's like, it's very, very weird that like that existed, but what we get as the cultural memory of this is Rambo 3 and just whatever it is, dumb. Yeah, I can't even put into words like the degree to which it feels already like a parody of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So we say like a 3 here. Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Unprovoked violence.
Actually, a medium has possessed me with the spirit of Zbigniew Brzezinski, and he is saying, actually, the entire war in Afghanistan was unprovoked violence, so Rambo was just responding to that. Also, please don't ask.
Yeah, that's true.
Huh. Well, I mean, like,
self-defense against Soviet imperialism. I mean, yeah, true. However, we do see that he's like happy.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some moments where Rambo like blows some Spetsnaz dudes up, and it's a bit too like he's enjoying this a bit too much.
Agreed.
And we as the audience are supposed to revel in this violence. Previously, we gave it a 10 on the last one. How about
I think it's less than that.
Definitely less than that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would put this at like a 4 actually. This is curiously moderate for such a bad movie. It's like middle of the road for a lot of these. And then misogyny is strange because they're kind of, there are no women. The women exist to be the Time magazine cover.
Prisoners and fleeing from gunfire and nothing else. I do not believe
by helicopters.
The only line I can think of a woman having in this film is when he runs up to the prisoners and he says American, and they say something to him. I didn't understand if it was Pashto, what they were saying, and that's it.
Masood also talks about how like our women have been raped and stuff, and our homes have been destroyed, and it's very much like we don't hear from them,
No. So, what do we tend to say for a mission? A mission's like a 3,
is a baseline
right?
2.
Baseline 2.
I'm happy to bump this up to a 3.
Yeah,
I'd say 3. But again, this is the numbers. The numbers are not good numbers. They're sort of like mediocre numbers, which is strange to me for something as insane as this movie is.
Remake of Rambo 3
really
in the modern era. They make it 10 times as racist and violent, but at least passes the Bechdel test.
Yeah, Rambo gets like a female sidekick who like gets to talk to another woman one time, and then you get a "so that just happened" thing.
So that gives us a total score of 14, which is worse than the first Rambo, but better than the second. It's less than half of what we gave the second one, so they're getting better. It's quite an unpredictable franchise, this.
That's true. It sort of goes up and it goes down. Yeah,
well, if the logic holds, the next one should be really bad.
Okay.
It's
doing Roger
really
Moore
looking
rules.
forward.
Yes, one good one.
I'm really looking forward to that one. Well, thank you so much for listening. Nate, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for tolerating my asides.
Inshallah.
Yeah, stole my fucking joke. Inshallah. We have a Patreon. You can subscribe to it. The last one we did is Death Becomes Her. And then we're going to do another bonus episode soon. So subscribe for that. And we will see you soon.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Do the theme song.
Who's in the call? Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. I'm recording this quite late, and I don't remember what we talked about, and I don't know what we're doing next, so let's just go ahead and say, if you're hearing this, you're not necessarily a Patreon subscriber, but you could be. It's only £5 a month, and it really helps us out. But special thanks to our £15 and above Patreon subscribers, and those are Lo Bjornsdottir, Candy Fox, Freya Aloysius, Gustavo Lira, Jack Holmes, Mike Berg, Hannah Oberhart, Nick Boris, Power Dad, Full Caps, Johnny Del Camino, George Rohack, Kentucky Fried Gummy, Yarrick, Drone Lover, Nate Mori, Cohen Enright, Labour Delenda Est, Peter McDonald, Library Hitman, Ozymandias, Beef Crime, Callan Burney, Jonathan Gurdy, Max Gamenhart, Jack Drummond, Hell, Kit Divine, Lysa Mace, J. Martindale, Tarp O, Mothman, Trip, Thotimus Prime, Katie You Old Fool, Blonde American Trans Woman, Maeve Victoria Roth, Zan Hutchin, Kill James Bond Highlights, Junior Roloff, Not Your Subby Wee Pay Pig, brackets, though happy to pay for great content. Okay, I'm going to be shortening that to just Pay Pig from here on out, letting you know that ahead of time. Isopod Gal, Clarification, Carbon Silver Pour, Oh No It's Andrew 95, Alex, Liz Nash in Florida, Violet Cybra, A Trans Robot, Katie Probes, Noblest Oblahaj, John 2089, Corvid Cultist, Ronan Walscott, Annie Ruby, Connor's Cool Big Sister, Zafira Lucifera, Ramona Random, Seng Chen, Emily, Queen of Sloths, Zoe Shepherd, Gwen Valeri, Loz Pycock, Alfredo, Roll History Pod, Turf Seat Shit and Die Alone, Mortran, Wolfie, Al Irwing, Finn Ross, Ingo Goodbye Forever, Robert Greensmith, Josh Simmons, Lauren Baston, Millie, and the curious Kaylee V. Thank you for all of your support. Kill James Bond is, of course, Alice, Abigail, and Devon, and our producer is the wonderful Mr. Nate Bethea. Our podcast art is by Matty Lubchansky, and our website is by Tom Allen. See ya.